Hey there, welcome to Old School Sports Parenting. My name is Mike Brusco. I'm a former college athlete, public school teacher, coach of various sports at various levels, all the way up to and including varsity and high school, and parent of 3 student athletes, 2 girls, 1 boy. As my channel title suggests, I take a hopefully realistic but very no-nonsense approach to this subject. So I'll remind you again, my words are my own, my thoughts are my own. My only goal here is to get some discussion going, maybe a good argument over a couple of beers about a subject that we're all very close to, which is kids, sports, competition, and being a parent in the middle of it all. Today's subject: am I pushing my kid too hard? No parent wants to see a child's potential, athletic potential, or any other kind of potential go to waste. But no parent either should push a kid into a sport, certainly a competitive sport, that the child is not interested in, or push them into the sport at a level that's not appropriate for their skill set. How can you tell whether you are pushing your kid too hard on a team? Well, for starters, if you have to push at all, you probably are pushing too much. An occasional nudge to, come on, buddy, get your stuff ready for practice. We got to get going in 5 minutes. That's not a big deal. But if you find yourself doing that kind of thing routinely, I'm talking about at least once or twice a week, depending on how much the kid's team practices, it's probably time to back off. The best way to tell if you are pushing too hard is to stop pushing at all and see what happens. If your youngster really wants to play that sport, he or she will pick up whatever slack you've given them. If the sport is in season, the kid will be pushing you to start get ready. Dad, it's time to get ready for practice, or whoever takes them. If it's out of season, he'll look for ways to get together with friends and practice that particular sport. I've experienced this from both sides. I've had my kids have occasionally gotten involved with the sport and left after a couple practices because, for whatever reason, it wasn't for them. Maybe the competitive level, maybe the coach, maybe whatever the reason, they left. And then I've also had experienced where my kid or kids were so ready to practice that they wanted to be there a half hour before it was even supposed to start. I was choking down mashed potatoes to try to get them in the car and off to the practice field. So if I saw their interest wane, though, start to burn out, I'd nudge them occasionally. But once they made it clear that they didn't want to play, I stopped nudging. My only rule at that point was if their plan was to quit, they were going to make the phone call to the coach and they were going to send that message themselves. I was not going to make that call. And likewise, if they had equipment to return, they were going to return it themselves. Obviously I would drive them to the coach's house or to the field or wherever, but they were going to get everything out of the trunk and schlep it over there and hand it off and own their decision. The child was going to own their decision. Obviously I'd also make sure that next time around, they did a little bit more research. Ask some kids about the coach if they've played for that coach before. Learn about the team itself. If they had the opportunity to watch a practice or two before signing up. I know that's unusual, but it's possible. Whatever research they could do to get a sense of whether this was really for them or not. I try to make sure that they did that. But my biggest concern really was that they did not stay involved with a competitive sports team when they had no commitment or enthusiasm for being there, and would only be taking away practice time and game playing time from kids who really did want to be there. I'll get into this a little bit more in a different video that deals with should I let my kid quit the team, particularly a competitive sports team. But for now, we're talking about just the whole idea of pushing kids too hard. And there's another side to pushing kids too hard, and that is disconnecting so much from your kid's activity, sports activity, that you have no idea what he or she is even doing there, what position they play, how their team is doing for the year, what their team is even called. I've seen parents do this. They're so aloof. They don't, they you know, a lot of times it's they don't know how to help, and I understand that. But and a lot of times also, parents will adopt that point of view as a way to not become an annoying, obnoxious sports parent to begin with. They just figure, I'll just back off completely, and that way there's no way I can be seen as that person. You know, somewhere between aloof and intrusive, there's a balance that involves, you know, guiding your child and helping them improve. And the key is really developing a level of trust. You know, you need to trust your child's level of commitment and interest in the sport, and not force it to be anything that it's not. And they need to trust that any nudging and pushing you do is toward the light end and is for their own good, is not about, you know, your attempt to live through their athletic activity. Let me end this video with an example that I think will really help give you an experience that you can draw on to help you determine whether you're pushing or just guiding and encouraging. Remember when you taught your child to first ride a two-wheel bike, right? Just think about that experience. The impetus for doing it probably came from your kid. Dad, I really want a bike. You know, all my kids have bikes. When can I get a bike? You know, maybe you suggested it. Maybe you said, hey, all your friends have bikes. Would you like me to get you a two-wheel bike? But it was, if anything, it was a mutual interest expressed. But more than half of the time, the idea will come from the kid itself. You gave him an outlet by buying the bike, helping him climb up to the seat and you know, pedal his wobbly way across down the sidewalk or across some playground or parking lot. But and of course, the first few times he'd fall, you know, you'd encourage him, hey, you can do it, you know, maybe you even help him get back up in the seat. But eventually you went back into the house and let him succeed or fail on his own, the same as you did. I'll bet your kid got a lot of good use out of that bike.